This tutorial is to finish the Cowcatcher. We have to cut little windows in the front here, and we also, if we look at the diagram, need to put these pegs on the bottom. Those are the 3 pegs that will help it attach to the front of the train. And we're going to cut out these windows here. Under normal circumstances in class, I would let you kind of design your own front, your own cutouts. You can put any shape you want here. You could even type your name and do an extrusion cut to cut through the window. You could make a grill or a grate, like have vertical pieces coming down and cut out pieces. You can do a lot of different things. We're just going to do a straight cut just for ease and simplicity. So let's go ahead and do that. I've oriented my Cowcatcher so that this looks like the front, like it's coming down the tracks this way. And we want to look at this face. That's the face we want to look at. So I want to see if I can rotate to get that face, sort of. Yeah, that's about the best I can do. This can be tricky in some cases, especially if something went wrong when you were creating your original sketches, and these lines, this little line here, the base, and this line here, if they aren't lined up exactly with the ones on the back, then it can cause warping in this face. And if this face is warped, you won't be able to do what I'm about to do. Now, there is a workaround for that. I can fix that. So hopefully you followed my step-by-step instructions exactly in creating this part so you don't have any issues. But I'll probably, I'll show you a technique that can kind of get you around that. Anyway, on this face here, we're going to right-click, New Sketch. You'll know right now if it's going to work or not. Because if you can't put a new sketch on this face, then you've got an issue with your original design, your original measurements. If you can put a new sketch here, then you're good to go. And it's a very easy cutout that we're going to do, a very easy sketch. First thing I'm going to do is project the geometry of this trapezoid shape. Turns yellow. That's how I know I've copied it. Now I'm going to use a new tool that you haven't used before, the Offset tool. So we're going to click on Offset. I'm going to click on, see how it turns green when I hover over the yellow line? I'm going to click it once, and I'm going to move inward. And it's copying the shape. So if you remember your geometry, these are called similar shapes. They have the same angles in the corners, but they don't have the same side lengths. But the lines are all going to be parallel. The tops are going to be parallel, the bottoms are parallel, the left and the right are parallel. So the angles internally are the same, but we have different lengths. So I'm going to just click it here. Now I can go back and set the dimension that I want between these two. And I just want a dimension of 0.1. So you just want 0.1, and that means it's 0.1 all the way around. And here, we can finish sketch. Now, I'm going to do the same thing. Well, I should wait for a second. We're going to now rotate to the bottom. So kind of rotate your cube so you can see underneath here. So there's the small house, and then there's the big house. That's what we want, looking underneath. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Shell, and we're going to shell the inside of this Cowcatcher. We want to hollow it out. So from a manufacturing standpoint, shelling out this plastic saves money, because I'm getting rid of a lot of plastic that would normally be in a solid part. Now it's a hollow part, saving money on plastic. Yes, this piece is now a little more flimsy, and maybe it can be a little bit easier to break. But depending on the type of material that it's made out of, it might not really affect that. So if it's made out of like think about a Nerf ball. You can't break a Nerf ball. So if it was hollow on the inside, it really wouldn't matter. Tennis ball wouldn't really matter that it's hollow on the inside, because of the material it's made out of on the outside. So yes, if this is a hard plastic, it'll break and snap. But if it's got a little bit of flexibility to it, then we're okay. The bottom line is we're saving money by using the shell. Let me double check thickness on the shell. So here we see shell right here. It's hollowed out. Now this says, yeah, let's do 0.1 typical. Let's do 0.1. So we're going to do a shell of 0.1. So let's go back to Inventor. Our shell thickness is 0.1. That's what we want. Remove face. Yes, we click on the bottom. And then click OK. And so now we can see it's hollowed out. Now we can cut out this window. So let's do extrude. Wait a second for it to open up. Select the profile. I want to extrude this. Do not select the whole face, just this. Now, notice it's growing material outward. We want to reverse that and do a cut. But we don't look what it's doing. It's cutting all the way through the part because it's set to cut 1 inch. Well, if we recall how thick we just made our shell, that's all I have to cut through is the shell. I may do 0.125 just to make sure it goes all the way through. But you don't want it to go all the way to the back. So as long as it cuts through and stops before you get interference over here, you're fine. You could say 0.1, you could say 0.125 just to kind of make sure it goes through where it's supposed to. Click OK. So we've cut one window and we've shelled it out. Now we're going to do the same thing over here and make another window. So hover over this face, right click, new sketch. So because it lets me open a new sketch, I know that I did it correctly originally, just like over on the previous one. We're going to do an offset again. Oh, I'm sorry, first we need to do a project geometry. Then we do an offset. And we're going to dimension that offset once again. Doesn't matter which side you do it on, 0.1. Finish sketch. Extrude. Change it to a cut. And click the trapezoid. And those are the windows. So we've shelled it and cut out the windows. So if we look back here at we've got the shell done, we've got the windows done. The only thing left are the 3 pegs. So these dimensions are going to be important now. We see distances between the pegs. We see height from the base to the middle peg. We see distance from each edge of 0.275. We see from the bottom it's 0.125. We see the chamfer note. That's the diameter symbol we're looking for. 0.125. It says diameter and it shows you this line. The problem is they dimensioned the one that was cut. It would have been better if they had dimensioned this one or any of the ones that are whole. So that's why it was a little hidden there. So 0.125 is the diameter. So let's first of all decide how we're going to go about this. Let's flip it around to the back. We're going to put a new sketch on the back. We're going to draw 3 circles. Try not to get any of, see these green lines that are popping up? Try not to touch those. Circle. We can move them in place later. Circle. And circle. Because I'll use dimensions and set the diameter, but if I lock it to one of these lines, it's not going to let me move it. So it's important that we stay away from any of these suggestions. You know, Inventor's a very smart program. It's very intuitive. It's trying to predict what you want. But we want to make sure, especially since we're novices, we aren't, experts at this program, we want to make sure we're avoiding some of those suggestions because undoing the suggestion is just a waste of time. So avoid them on the front end. Now let's talk about some dimensioning. The first thing I'm going to do, since I remember it, I'm going to dimension the diameters. 0.125. For this one, 0.125. For this one, and 0.125 for this one. First of all, I'm going to grab it and slide it over a little bit. Maybe that'll help. Dimension from the center. Well, that's from the base. Well, we'll start with that, let's say. So from the base is 0.125. So it should be 0.125 vertically. And then dimension from the corner there we go. 0.275. You know what? I'm going to hit escape and I'm going to drag that number down there. That looks a little bit better. So we have a vertical distance of 0.125 and we have a horizontal distance from this corner here, 0.275. Let's do the same thing over here. Do our vertical distance first, 0.125, and then do our horizontal distance, 0.275. And then finally, we want to do a vertical distance here of, looks like from here, 0.625, and it should be centered. It looks like they made the math more complicated. Let's do this. This is 0.625 vertically. And if we know this bottom long line was 1.8, then what is the distance from either corner? 0.9. Those are the placements for the 3 pegs. So we're going to finish that sketch. So we have placed them using X and Y coordinates. Now we need to extrude. Extrusion thickness of 0.125. So we go to extrude. And we make sure we click in all 3 at the same time. And make sure that's set at 0.125. It is. Click OK. Almost there. The last thing is we're going to put a chamfer. So go to chamfer. Let's see what kind of chamfer note or what kind of chamfer it was. 0.01, 45 degrees. So switch to the middle chamfer button. Our distance is 0.01, 45 degrees. Click on a face, so that face, and then click on an edge, that edge. That's what we want. Apply. Now we do have to do that separately for each, but it's already set up for us. Face, edge, apply, face, edge, apply. And that is the Cowcatcher. Try and rotate it around. This is what it'll look like on your drawing sheet. That's the isometric view that we want. Now, if this is the isometric view that we want, here's a little known fact. If that's the isometric view that we want, then this is the front. This is the front. Now, I would argue that this could be the front because of the pegs, but here we also see there's windows. So we're going to leave this as the front. Now, here's what you need to do. This is something we haven't done before. Rotate it and make sure you click in the middle of the face to get this view. If it's upside down, use these arrows here to rotate 90 degrees until you get to here. Hover over the house. Right click. Set current view as front. Now when we click the upper right corner, that's the isometric view we want. And look, it's already relabeled our cube. There's the top. There's the bottom. So now this is what we want. So we're going to save this. You've already saved it as Cowcatcher from before, I believe. So we're going to bring this. Now we're going to save that. And that's the end of the construction of the Cowcatcher. The next video will be for the drawing sheet, and it's going to be a little complicated.